The cargo bay was silent. Rows of alien mercenaries stood at attention. Their armor gleamed under the harsh lights. Each soldier carried a weapon forged from alloys unknown to humanity. They were the elite of their kind, hardened veterans, masters of their brutal craft. But none of them dared speak. None of them shifted their weight. None of them even blinked. At the head of the formation stood Commander Tolvek. His towering form cast a long shadow. He was one of the most feared warriors in the galaxy, a veteran of 100 campaigns. His claws were tipped with venom. His fangs had crushed the skulls of creatures twice his size. Yet even he felt it, the unease, the faint trembling in his muscles. He would never admit it, but it was there. The sound of boots echoed through the corridor. They were slow, deliberate, metallic clangs that reverberated like the tolling of a funeral bell. Tolvek turned his gaze toward the source. His soldiers stiffened, their mandibles clicked in nervous anticipation. A figure emerged from the shadows, small by galactic standards, barely reaching Tolvek's chest. The human wore no armor, only a dark uniform. A patch on the shoulder bore an insignia unfamiliar to the mercenaries. A stylized skull surrounded by sharp wings. The human's eyes scanned the room. Cold, unblinking, calculating. Tolvek stepped forward. He raised his voice. "You are the human they sent. The one they call a Deathworlder." The human nodded once. No words, no pleasantries, only a gaze sharp enough to cut steel. "We have heard of your kind," said Tolvek. "You claim to come from a world that kills even its children. A world where the weak are devoured, where the strong perish slowly." The human did not react. "Your reputation precedes you," continued Tolvek. "Stories of your kind are whispered in the void. Creatures of terror, killers who laugh at death. Do you know what they say about us?" The human finally spoke. The voice was quiet, calm, flat. "They say you fear us." Tolvek snarled. His claws flexed. The sound echoed like metal scraping against rock. His soldiers tensed. "Fear is weakness," said Tolvek. "We do not fear your kind. We have fought beasts that turn worlds to ash. We have broken empires. What is a human to us?" The human tilted their head slightly. The motion was unsettling, like a predator analyzing prey. "Show me." Tolvek froze. The words hung in the air like a challenge. He was not accustomed to being challenged, least of all by a creature so small. His pride demanded a response. "Very well," said Tolvek. "We shall see if the tales of Deathwarders are true." He gestured to his soldiers. Two of them stepped forward. Massive creatures with thick carapaces and razor-sharp limbs. They towered over the human. Their weapons were discarded. This would be a test of strength. The human stood motionless. "Begin," said Tolvek. The first soldier lunged. Its limbs slashed through the air like scythes. The human sidestepped. The motion was precise, effortless. A blur of movement followed. The soldier crumpled to the floor. Its limbs were bent at unnatural angles. The second soldier hesitated. Then it charged, its claws aimed for the human's throat. The human moved faster, a strike to the side, another to the jaw. The soldier collapsed, unconscious. The room was silent again. Tolvek stared at the human. His claws twitched, his pride burned. He gestured again. This time 3 soldiers stepped forward. They advanced cautiously. The human attacked first. What followed was a dance of brutality. The human's movements were fluid, efficient. Each strike was deliberate. Each motion calculated. The 3 soldiers fell in seconds. Tolvek felt his pride give way to something colder. He stepped back. The human turned to face him. "You are faster than I expected," said Tolvek. The human did not respond. "But speed will not save you from this." Tolvek stepped forward, his claws extended. Venom dripped from their tips. He crouched low, ready to strike. The human waited. Tolvek roared. His charge was a blur of motion. Claws slashed through the air. The human evaded. The battle was short, too short. Tolvek lay on the floor. His breath came in ragged gasps. The human stood over him. Their uniform was unscathed. Their breathing steady. "The stories are true," said Tolvek. The human knelt. Their voice was colder than before. "You will tell the others." Tolvek nodded weakly. The human stood. They walked toward the exit. The sound of their boots echoed again. The soldiers parted to let them pass. None dared move. As the human disappeared into the shadows, Tolvek whispered to himself, "We fear you because you are death itself." The room remained silent long after the human was gone. For our Usaid, Thessalon's in the cargo bay was deafening. Soldiers shifted uneasily. Their gazes avoided their commander. Each one carried the weight of unspoken thoughts. For creatures bred for war, this was unfamiliar ground. The human had left, but its presence lingered, a shadow over the pride of the entire battalion. Talvik struggled to his feet. His claws scraped against the metal floor. The venom on their tips had been wasted. He steadied himself and looked at his soldiers. Their eyes betrayed the same fear he felt. "They were not gods," he said aloud. The soldiers flinched. The words struck them like a blow. "The human bleeds as we do. They breathe as we do, yet they fight as no one else can. This is why we fear them." One of his lieutenants stepped forward. Hesitation marked every movement. "Commander, what do we do if we face them again?" Tolvek's gaze darkened. His mind raced. Strategies, countermeasures, none of them seemed enough. He took a deep breath. "We adapt. We study them. We learn their ways. This is not the end." The lieutenant nodded, but doubt lingered in their posture. Elsewhere on the ship, the human moved through the corridors. Their steps were measured. The faint hum of the vessel's engines was the only sound. They reached their quarters. The door slid open with a hiss. Inside, the room was sparse. A single bed, a small desk, a duffel bag sat in the corner. The human sat on the bed and exhaled slowly. They reached into the bag and retrieved a small device. A recorder. They pressed a button. Mission log. First contact with alien mercenary unit successful. Hostile engagement confirmed species-specific combat doctrines inadequate against Deathworlder tactics. Psychological impact significant. Recommendations. Increase training intensity. Expand combat simulations to include multi-species engagements. End log. They set the recorder aside. Their expression was unreadable. The ship shuddered as it exited warp. The comm system crackled to life. "Attention crew, we have entered the Haxorus Nebula. Prepare for deployment." The humans stood. They adjusted their uniform and left the room. The corridors were busier now. Engineers and officers moved with purpose. The atmosphere was tense. The mission ahead was not routine. They arrived at the briefing room. A holographic display dominated the center. The ship's captain stood at the front, a stern-faced Thyrakian with a reputation for discipline. "You are all aware of the stakes," said the captain. "The Haxorus Nebula is home to an illegal weapons facility. Intelligence suggests advanced technology capable of destabilizing multiple sectors. Our objective is simple: destroy it." The hologram shifted. It displayed the facility. A fortress of metal and energy fields. Automated turrets. Reinforced walls. The humans studied the display. Their eyes flicked over every detail. The captain continued. "Resistance is expected to be heavy. Mercenary forces have been contracted to defend the facility. Many of them are veterans. Be prepared for the worst." A faint murmur ran through the room. The human remained silent, dismissed. The crew dispersed. The human lingered for a moment. Then they approached the captain. "Permission to lead the ground assault." The captain raised an eyebrow. "You want to lead?" "Alone." "Not alone," said the human. "With a small team." The captain considered this. "You are confident you can handle what lies ahead?" "Yes." The captain nodded. "Very well. Choose your team. We deploy into ours." The human left the room. Their mind was already working. Names, skills. They knew what was required. 2 hours later, they stood in the hangar bay. Their team was assembled. 5 individuals from different species. Each one handpicked. Each one a specialist. The human spoke. "This mission will not be easy. You have seen what the mercenaries are capable of. But you are here because you are better. Faster, stronger, smarter. We will succeed." The team nodded. Determination replaced hesitation. The dropship engines roared to life. The team boarded. The human took a seat near the front. Their hand rested on the grip of their weapon. As the dropship descended into the nebula, the human closed their eyes. Their breathing slowed. Their mind focused. They thought of their homeworld. The chaos, the struggle, the lessons learned in a place that spared no one. When the dropship landed, they were ready. The door opened. The team stepped into the fray. The first turret fired. The human moved like a shadow. Their weapon barked once. The turret exploded. Mercenaries appeared. Alien war cries filled the air. The team advanced. Every step was calculated. Every motion a symphony of destruction. The human led the charge. They were not a soldier. They were not a warrior. They were something else entirely, death itself.